Hello, seniors. Welcome to your senior guidance lesson. It looks a little different this year as we're not able to meet in person, but hopefully you will get all the good information that you need by listening to this presentation in the comfort of your home. Some of the information that we're going to discuss with you, talk about how COVID-19 has impacted everything from the admissions process to admissions tests. We'll talk about high school requirements and what you need to do to ensure you're graduating. We'll go over different college options and the application process, and go over how you can request letters of recommendations from teachers and your counselor. So as we go into this presentation, we just want to take a moment to acknowledge how stressful this process is. We know that this process is stressful in any regular year, but let alone adding in the COVID-19 and all of the uncertainty that comes with that. But we want to help you navigate this process as smoothly as possible. We are learning information day by day as we go as well, and we hope to be able to provide as much information and resources to you as possible throughout this process. So how has COVID-19 impacted admissions? A lot of questions that we're getting is, questions about the pass fail grades and how that might impact you. Can you visit campuses to see if you feel like it's a good fit? What about AP scores? What about SAT, ACT if I wasn't able to take that? A lot of questions, and a lot of you might be feeling a little bit lost right now. So hopefully this presentation will go over and answer all the questions that you have swirling around. So navigating the admissions process right now, what we really want to stress is that there is so much because of COVID-19 that is out of your control. And so the best thing you can do right now is focus on what you can control. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to stay healthy. You want to keep up with what you are passionate about and what makes you happy. Colleges are going to want to see that you continue doing those things that you love and the things that make you who you are. Look out for your friends and family. Hopefully, if nothing else, through this process you've learned, or through this pandemic, you've learned how important your friends and family are to you. You can control your education right now in terms of doing your best in your online classes and really giving your best effort to get the best grades you can as a senior. Know that colleges are not just looking at your transcript or your test scores. They're looking at the whole person. They're looking at your character. They're looking at what comes through in those personal statements that you write to determine if you'll be a good fit for their community or not. And just know that, if you have had an impact in your family because of COVID-19, or maybe you have done something amazing because of COVID-19 and being able to help out your community, those are things that colleges want to know about and that they will ask you to write about in your application, and we'll go over where you will do that coming up. So in terms of the spring 2020 grading policy, we want you to know that you do not need to address how PV district decided to handle the grading policy in the spring. We as counselors will address that in the school profile that we send with your transcripts and or recommendations to colleges directly. So they will get a description and all the details on how our alternate grading policy worked, and you do not have to worry about wasting a space on your application to do that. So also keep in mind, colleges are, again, looking at that holistic application, taking it into beyond just your test scores and your grades, how you were able to keep up with your activities. They're gonna wanna hear from your teachers. A lot of the teachers writing letters are gonna be the ones from spring who saw you transition to the online learning during COVID-19, and how did you respond to that? So they're looking at the overall context when they're reading your application. And if at any point you are unsure about how alternate grading might impact one of the colleges that you are applying to, the best thing you can do is just go straight onto their application, and usually it's laid out for you right there in the admissions page. How are they looking at alternate grading and what impact that might have? So in terms of visiting campuses, obviously that's not happening at this time, but there are so many great virtual tours and resources out there for students right now. Colleges know you can't come visit, but they still want, to the best of their ability, to give you that experience. So these are some websites that you can go to that have thousands of campuses, virtual tours on there. Another great thing to do is, like I said, go directly onto that college's website. And I would say majority of them have virtual tours or virtual sessions that you can sign up for and get as best of experience as you can in terms of taking that tour. The College and Career Center is also continuing with the college rep visits. They're not in person this year, they're virtual, but she is scheduling more and more every day. And you do need to sign up in advance for those on your Naviance page. So some COVID-19 resources that hopefully might be beneficial for you throughout this process. NACAC, which is the National Association for College Admissions Counseling, has compiled in one place all the different information that's coming out from over 1,000 different colleges and universities about their college admission process due to COVID-19. So if you want one central location to look up the different changes to admissions by college, you can go to these links here, search the college that you're interested in, and see what their admissions changes and policies are due to COVID-19. Common Application, which a majority of you will probably be using to apply to colleges, is also monitoring COVID-19 updates. And on their main homepage, you'll be able to see their most up-to-date information in terms of colleges that are using the Common App, whether they're changing deadlines or requirements. So that's another great resource to look at. They've also gone ahead and added the ability for you to use the additional information section to describe if COVID-19 has had an impact on you. Keep in mind, COVID-19 has impacted everybody. So we would only recommend you using that if there has been an event such as loss in the family and illness, loss of employment, some toll on your mental, emotional health that they should know about. Maybe you had to take on a part-time job or start caring for your younger siblings because your parents were working more. So things like that had an impact on you and had an impact on your ability to focus as much in your classes or do those extracurricular activities are things that they would want to know about. The Coalition application, which is a different application system than Common App, is also allowing you to address the COVID-19 impact on education on their application as well. They'll have a checkbox style question where you get to check off which of the impacts listed relate best to you. So again, if you had access issues with internet or technology, job loss, things like that, that's things that they would very much want to know about while they're reviewing your application. If you're applying to any UCs or Cal States, they have their own separate applications. They're not on the Common App or Coalition, but they do require that you do personal insight responses for the UCs. That's a required part of your application. And here you'll want to use those personal insight questions to really give them a picture of who you are as a person and making sure that you're actually answering the questions in the personal insight responses. So, but they do, if you do feel like COVID had a significant impact on you or your family, they ask that you write about that in the additional information space instead of having to use up one of your personal insight responses on that. If you are an athlete and planning on playing NCAA in college, some changes that you should be aware of. they no longer are going to require the test scores for this fall 2021. So if you haven't taken a test, you don't need to worry about that in terms of the eligibility. But what you do need to make sure you do is that you must be registered with the eligibility center. If you haven't done this, you need to do this as soon as possible. I'm talking about do it tomorrow, get registered, make sure you tell your counselor so that they can send a transcript for you. That was supposed to go out at the end of junior year. So make sure you do that if you haven't yet. As usual, you would want to work on an athletic resume, and you want to make sure that you're meeting the 16 core course requirements. If you are unsure about that, you can reach out to your counselor and they can double check that you're on track with that. And just know that whether you are in distance learning or hybrid, it doesn't matter. All of the courses that we offer in either program are NCAA eligible. Financial aid may have more importance than ever this year. So we just want to make sure you're aware that if you are planning on applying for federal student aid, the deadline to submit that is March 2nd. And then if you're looking at applying to college-specific scholarships, that's something that we would recommend checking on their actual on their website under the financial aid office. They usually have their own deadlines and their own process for applying to those. So just making sure you're keeping on up to date on deadlines and what you need to submit those so that you can get the money you need for college. So admissions test. This is the biggest question out there is the SAT and ACT and how that's going to impact admissions for your class of 2021. So what I want to stress is that colleges are being flexible. I would say the majority of colleges out there are going to be test optional this year. And if you didn't take the SAT or ACT, please do not stress yourself out trying to travel on a plane to go take a test somewhere in Utah. Know that colleges understand this, that when they say test optional, they mean it. It's not going to impact your application in a negative way if you don't submit your test scores. There are very few colleges that are still requiring it. Again, you can check on the college's website to see for those colleges that are requiring it, but it's very far and few in between. These are the upcoming dates. But remember, it's going to be difficult to find a test location that you can test at. We are not testing at PD High School. And so we just want to stress that maybe this is something, if you haven't taken, that you let go and you focus on making your application and your personal statements as strong as possible to really let your personality shine through in your applications instead of focusing on trying to squeak in an SAT or ACT under this stressful situation. College Board has asked for flexibility from colleges in terms of extending deadlines for students, especially for that early action, early decision group of students. Again, for that test optional, and to equally consider students that did take it and did not take the test, and to recognize that some of those students that took the test may have only taken it once in the beginning or middle of their junior year and may have taken it again if times were as usual, but they are not. So just keeping in mind that colleges are being really flexible. And again, they would not want you to risk your health or the health of any others to travel to take a test. So that might be something to just let go right now. And the UCs and Cal States have actually already suspended test requirements for this fall 2020 admission cycle. So they are test blind, which means they will not be factoring in test scores at all in their admissions process. So if you're planning on applying to UCs and Cal States, you do not need to worry about test scores for them at all. And fairtest.org, the link is at the bottom of this slide, and there they provide you a list of all the colleges and universities that are test optional for this fall 2021 admission cycle. So a great resource if you're wanting to look up those colleges. So for those, the few of you that do have an SAT or ACT that you want to report to colleges, we just want to make sure that you're aware of how to do that. Again, if you didn't take it, don't stress about it. But if you did and you need to report it, know that we do not list test scores on our transcript. We do not put SAT or ACT scores on our transcript. That's a district policy. So that means we cannot send test scores for you. So if you need to send a test score, you need to go directly onto College Board or the ACT website and order those test scores sent directly to the colleges you're applying to. SAT and ACT is score choice, but majority of colleges are going to ask that you send all your test scores and not utilize the score choice. And remember, it can play in your favor, especially at private schools, which use a super score if you send multiple test scores.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about high school requirements, graduation requirements. So in order to graduate, you should have 220 credits, meet your subject requirements, and there's a little confusion about subject requirements versus electives on your transcript. An elective is anything over and above your minimum high school graduation requirements. So for example, 2 years of math are required for graduation. Anything you take over and above that counts as electives. A lot of seniors look at the numbers of electives they need still and equate that to something like a ceramics or a drawing and painting class, and it's not. So rest assured, you will all be fine with those requirements. When you do get your transcript, you'll see 6 different grade point averages calculated on there, weighted and unweighted. Colleges look at both of those. Also, when you get your transcript, please double check for any errors and email your counselor immediately if you find any. Check your name, check your address. Make sure any grade changes done over the summer have been done. Make sure any summer school classes you took have been added, things like that. So really look through that transcript with a fine-tooth comb. All right, so here's a picture of your transcript. We are going to get these out to you as soon as possible. We're still doing some changes, adding summer school grades, grade changes, things like that. So please be on the lookout for a communication from us. But if you look at the little box on the side, that's what I'm referring to. You can see what's left for high school graduation. If there's a little plus sign there, that means that's a weighted grade. You're going to get an extra 0.2 added onto your grade point average. You're going to see the GPA and credit calculation and your credit summary for graduation requirements. Please know that the no harm grading policy that we had last quarter will be communicated to colleges when you apply, so they will understand what that policy is. That was for the spring 2020 semester only. We are back to our normal grading system. So that explanation will go out to all colleges. It will be included in the school profile, and we will address more on this topic later in our presentation. All right, here's a nice little chart that shows you what you need comparing high school graduation, recommendations for the Cal State, the UC, and then the highly selective schools. We've all tried to kind of push you to take as many courses as you can for all 4 years, but this is maybe a tab that you want to refer back to later on just to kind of see where you are and if you're in the ballpark when you're applying to different schools. Senior year does count, everybody. Any acceptance that you get is provisional, and it depends on your final semester grades. If you make a change in your schedule after you've submitted your college application, you must notify those colleges. And a lot of schools are still going to look at those first semester senior grades just to make their decisions. So this is not time to, take your foot off the gas. It's time to be serious and know that those grades count. If you do have a D or an F grade in a subject that you haven't retaken, that's considered a subject omission from college for college entrance. Basically, they're not going to consider that you've taken that class. So that course needs to be retaken. If you did retake the class, both grades will appear on the transcript. So you still have to report all grades. There are a few exceptions. So if you're in a situation where you have a D or an F grade and you haven't retaken it for some reason, my best advice to you would be to email your counselor and ask about that grade and how it's dealt with. Sometimes with math and foreign language, taking a higher level course will validate a lower level course, but you really want to discuss that with your counselor. The last day to drop a class or make a level change is October 2nd. Please write that date down in your planners. After that, the class will appear on your transcript, and you will have to apply for a withdrawal grade or possibly have the grade that you were earning. So if you drop before then, there's no impact on your transcript. The thing is, if you do move from class to class now, your grade from your current class will follow you to your new class. So it behooves you, if you think you're in a class and you're a little bit over your head, that you make that change as soon as possible so you have more time to bring that grade up. Once again, if you've already completed your college application and then you make a change to your schedule, you have to report that to the colleges in writing. All right, so I'm going to talk about finding a college match, something that's right for you, and focusing on something that's going to bring out the best in you and give you the best experience. So college options. Community college is an excellent, excellent, excellent option, especially now during these uncertain times. The South Bay Promise offers free tuition for PVP-USD students to both El Camino and Harbor Community College. Please note that there is a deadline in registering and applying for that South Bay Promise. If you do it too late, you may not be eligible. So if community college is an option for you, I advise that you go online and register as a student as soon as you're sure that's going to happen. There are no standardized test requirements. You basically just graduate from high school and you register to become a student. Again, doing it as soon as possible. There are articulation agreements between most of the community colleges and the UCs and the Cal States and public and private schools. So my advice would be to make a counseling appointment as soon as you know that this is going to be an option that you're going to use, so that you get good advice on which classes you should be taking at the community college to ensure that you will transfer to the school of your choice. Things to consider to figure out if a community college is right for you: the location, the school size, majors that they offer, course availability for freshmen, student support. I can't emphasize this enough. You really can't fly blind at the community college, and high school counselors are not equipped to help you choose your classes. This is a college that you're going to. You need to make an appointment and get some advising by the college counselor. There are specialized programs, there are honors programs. Sometimes they require a little bit of extra paperwork. So once again, I recommend that you start your application to the community college early. The cost of enrollment, once again, if you meet those deadlines, could be free for your first year. So please take advantage of this. It's an excellent opportunity. Enrollment varies from community college to community college, but basically you need to go to their website and you need to apply to become a student at that school. It's going to just take you step by step. Sometimes you need placement exams, typically in math and English. They're either going to have some kind of online or in-person orientation, depending on what's going on in the fall or in the summer. And you're going to register for your classes online, apply for financial aid online. Everything basically takes place online. So again, I encourage you to start this process early. Even if you're not completely sure, you can still register to become a student, get a student number, and start that process. There are 116 community colleges in California, but most of our students go to El Camino and Los Angeles Harbor College, which are the closest to us. Long Beach City College has become increasingly popular, as has Santa Monica College, or living in a different city, Santa Barbara, maybe San Luis Obispo, where you'd like to transfer to one of their local schools. Best practices for students headed to community college is take math all 4 years. Once again, one of the first things you're going to do is take a placement test. So you want those math skills to be as good as possible so that you don't have to take too many math classes to get to the level that you'd like. The same with English. Pay attention in your English classes. You're going to take a placement test. You want to be able to start at a good level. Try to enroll in a summer bridge program if one is available. Try to even enroll in a community college class in the spring if you have a light load. That's a good way to kind of get your feet wet and get started. And if you're interested, I highly encourage you to apply to the honors program there too. Okay, so University of California. There are 9 campuses. You apply directly to the University of California website, which is noted here. The filing period is November 1st through the 30th. You're going to have some personal insight responses, which are basically some short essays. Again, the SAT and ACT have been suspended. You don't need letters of recommendation for the UC campuses. You don't send them your transcript unless they request it. The application fee is $70. They do use something called eligibility in the local context, which is the top 9% of students. UC Merced will accept all UC eligible students, and all others are based on selectivity. So my advice to you is to apply broadly. The University of California is a very, very competitive university system, so applying broadly is your best bet. The UC does something called a UC comprehensive review. Here are the 14 factors that go into your review. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to highlight a few things. Your grade point average is the most important. Test scores traditionally were as well, however, they've been suspended. So that just means they're going to rely more on your grades and more on those short answers, those short essays of yours. That's really your only opportunity to insert some of your personality and let them know who you are. Everything else you see here on this list is basically some kind of data that you're providing to them. So please take your time with those personal statements. They're very important. They're the school's insight into who you are as a student. California State University system has 23 campuses. They also use their own website, which is noted here. The filing period is October 1st through November 30th. The California State University application is really pretty easy. So if you want to feel like you've checked something off your list, I recommend you look towards that October 1st date, start completing that application and get it submitted. It's going to make you feel really good to have something done. There's no test requirement, no essay, no subject test, no letters of recommendation, no transcript, and no statements. So this is a pretty easy test. Cal Poly is the only school that asks for a very short, basically they're asking for a list of your top 3 extracurriculars and a super short explanation. I wouldn't say it's any kind of a resume or statement. So this is a great thing to check off your list and get done early. Private and out-of-state schools all vary. Often they'll require an essay, some kind of resume or statement of your extracurricular activities, sometimes a letter of recommendation, usually for private schools. Many out-of-state schools follow the same format as the University of California and the Cal State, and they don't require letters either. They require something called a secondary school report, which your counselor fills out and sends. Typically an initial transcript, which means the current transcript, and many times that first semester senior year transcript as well, which is again why we're telling you to make sure you're keeping your foot on the gas senior year. Students need to check with individual school websites to determine admission requirements as they vary from school to school. Tools that can help you refine your list are going to be Naviance. You can use Supermatch, you can use College Match. Our Palos Verdes High School class profile can kind of show you where you fall as compared to some of your other your other classmates. College's Big Board, Big Future Search. Those virtual college representative visits are super important. It's really going to give you an insider view to that college. Our College and Career Center has great resources, virtual college fairs, family input, especially in knowing your priorities and talking to your family about boundaries and what your family's willing to, how far you can go, how much money, if it has to be in-state, out of state, if private school is something that you can do, those kinds of things. Virtual college visits are offered via the College and Career Center. This is so important. This is an excellent way for you to learn about schools. Usually the admissions officer is an alumna of the school, so it's a great way to get an insider's perspective. You must register for these on Naviance in your portal, and any virtual visit that takes place during class time, you need to get your teacher's permission. Most of them this year are not going to be during class time, so that's going to be a great bonus. Here's some College and Career Center resources. I don't need to go through these with you, but just know that these are here for you to refer back to. College, this is what the college visits look like that are listed on Naviance. So you see the box that it says the date, it has the name of the school, and you register now. Click that box and it will prompt you to the next thing.
Okay, so I'm going to start talking to you a little more in depth about the application process. So your college application list should be in the single digits, about 8 to 10 schools. Maybe if you want a slightly few more this year because of the uncertainty of things, but if you have like 30 colleges on your list, that's going to be something that your counselor is going to talk to you about, really narrowing down and kind of focusing in on a smaller group. It should have a mix of likely schools. No more than a third should be reach schools. We want to give you the opportunities. We don't want everyone to be super competitive for you. Each school, though, should really meet those priorities that were talked about that you need to discuss with your family and figure out for you, and those are going to be individualized. Each school should make you happy and really account for your financial situation and what is going to be feasible for your family. So you're going to need some things for each application. Once you've built that list, and that's why it's important to kind of figure that out earlier, you're going to have to determine the application requirements for each school, because depending on the type of school, it might be different. So you're going to need to keep track of if there's essays, if there's tests needed. As mentioned, there's probably not that many schools that are going to require test scores. There is a chance, though, that some of the schools are hoping you have a test score for like merit scholarships and things like that. So you really want to just note that and really pay attention to that. And really check those websites, check everything to confirm, because things are changing. So you want to make sure you have the most up-to-date information. You're going to need your transcript, especially for those schools that ask you to enter your grades. You're going to need to use that to help you. Most schools also require official transcripts from every school attended. So even if you've attended PV High all 4 years, but you've taken online classes in the summer or community college classes, those are considered another school that you've attended. So you're gonna have to send all of those transcripts to. We cannot send transcripts from somewhere like Laurel Springs, so you're gonna have to ask for that to be sent. Super important is paying attention to those due dates. Be sure to apply by whatever the deadline is that you're applying to. So early action, restrictive early action, early decision, regular decision, and rolling admission are gonna have different deadlines, and you need to make sure that you know those, because if your application is not in by that deadline, you are not gonna be considered at that school. Some more application tips: to make a copy of your applications, watch for errors, be sure to self-report your correct grades, check your deadlines and be timely, check school-specific requirements. So some schools are gonna require letters of rec, others are not, essays, interviews, other opportunities, and super important that you establish an appropriate email address and check it regularly. This is how the colleges are going to communicate to you. If they need anything, if there's updates, they're sending it to you. They're not sending it to us. They're not sending it to your parents. So you really need to pay attention to that and make sure these emails are not ending up your junk folder, but also checking that junk folder and confirming that there isn't something important in there. So application notes to keep in mind: the Common App, which we reviewed, over 900 schools participate in that. They're not biased at all if you use that. The nice thing is you complete one application with like your demographic info, and then there are sometimes supplemental materials or essays for specific schools, but most of the application is the same for all. And you can select that in Naviance. Coalition is not integrated into Naviance, so you do have to select that you're applying directly to the institution on your Naviance account, and we'll show you what that means. UCs and Cal State applications do not accept transcripts or letters of rec. If you try and send those, they will shred them. They will not pay attention. Again, test scores if you have them, so don't stress if you don't, but if you have them, they're not on the transcript. So you're gonna have to send those yourself. We cannot send them, nor do we have access to be able to send them. So earlier I talked about different admissions options, and I wanna make sure you understand what those mean. So regular decision is when you submit an application by a specific deadline, and then you receive a decision within a stated period, so normally sometime in the spring. Rolling admission means that the college reviews applications as they're completed and gives admissions decisions to students throughout the admission cycle. So that means there's an opening deadline, you put in your application, sometimes it's as early as like 6 weeks that you hear back. So that's a really nice thing to start off by sending. It can make you feel really good that you've completed something. It's nice to know that you've gotten in somewhere earlier and not have to wait. And you do want to get in on the earlier side, because the longer time moves on and you're getting closer and closer to the end of that deadline, the more competitive it might be, because they've already selected some students. Early action is when you apply early to a school that you really have a higher preference to going to. You receive a decision in advance of the regular decision students. You're not obligated to accept the offer of admission, but you really do need to be applying early action to a school that you're really competitive for and really, really want to go to. They're going to have a different deadline, so you need to pay attention to what those are. Restrictive early action, this is something that like Stanford uses. When you apply to an institution that you really want to go to, you receive a decision in advance, so like early action, but it does replace restrictions on the student application to other early plans. So that means you can't apply to a ton of schools early action. Again, you're not obligated to accept it if you get in, but you do need to pay attention to the requirements for that, because generally this is the only school you can apply early to. The most binding admissions option is early decision. This is when you're applying to a school and you're making a commitment to your first choice. So if you apply to the school, you have to just adore this school, like you've thought about it forever, you're super excited to go there, there's nothing within you that's going to make you change your mind, because if you are admitted, you have to enroll. You sometimes can apply to other institutions, but sometimes you can only have one ED application pending. You cannot apply early decision to a bunch of schools. You do need to check with the school that you're applying early decision to see what their specific policies are. But this is legally binding. Like there's a contract that you sign, your parent signs, your counselor signs. So you really need to think about that before applying under early decision. Important deadlines. So regardless of the college deadlines, you have to request a letter of rec from both teachers and counselors by the following dates. If you're applying early action or decision, your deadline is September 25th. For everybody else, that's November 2nd. So you're going to want to write those dates down, note that somewhere, and pay attention to that. So letters of rec. There's a different process for teachers and counselors, so we're going to go through that now. If you need a teacher of letter of rec, which colleges will state on their website if they need a teacher letter of rec and how many they need. The purpose of this is to spotlight your accomplishments within the scope of the classroom. So this is about you as a student academically. You're going to want to then ask a teacher that knows you really well. You should ask at least 2 weeks before the due date to give them time to write something personal about you. And colleges really prefer those letters come from your junior year academic teachers. If you feel like that might not be the best decision for you, you're welcome to run that by your counselor. But that's really going to be the last full year that you've had with a teacher who really, really knows you from start to end in the class. So that's why they like to see that. And sometimes it can be a good idea if you've taken classes in high school that relate to your major that you want to study, to ask someone that's taught that subject to write that letter. Again, though, check that admissions website applications for any specific letter requirements. Think of a polite way to ask this teacher or those teachers to write your letter. Email, ask them if there's a good time to connect, to maybe stay on camera after class. But you can't just request them in Naviance, which we'll show you how to do. You can't just do it that way and call it a day. You need to talk to them. You need to ask them. If they agree to write you a letter, there's a letter of rec questionnaire in your Google Classroom. So every counselor has a Google Classroom page set up, and there's a ton of information on there. One of them is the application, the questionnaire for your teacher, so you can download that. Once they've agreed to write a letter, you have to also request them in Naviance under the colleges tab, because that's how it connects to your application. You can request them to send to specific colleges, to all of them, and then you can see once they've submitted them. And then at the end, send your teacher a thank you card or a thank you email. They're not required to write letters by contract. They do it in their personal time. It takes up a lot of time, so really be appreciative of that. So this is what it looks like when you go into Naviance. You'll see there's a drop down of all the teachers. You have to have added your colleges first so that you can select where you want them to send it. Then you can include a little note at the bottom and then send it on to them. The counselor letter of rec is different. This is to provide an overall picture of you as a student, your character, your contribution to the school, any obstacles you might have had. It's not talking about how you were in math class specifically. There's a different process to request this from us. You have to complete the questionnaire. There's one in Google, it's posted on Google Classroom. It's also posted on Naviance. So if you've already finished it on Naviance, you don't have to do it again in Google Classroom. It's the same thing, but you do need to let us know, because we need to make sure we know how we're receiving it and that you have done it, because this is really the hugest thing that we use to write your letter. Priority is going to be given students that require a letter from us, as opposed to having it just be recommended by the college. They're going to be written in the order that they're received, and no late requests will be honored. So go back to that slide, write down those deadlines. The process for the senior packet. So at the end of the presentation, you're going to see that there's an access code to your counselor's Google Classroom. Please add it. And this is how you can access your virtual senior packet, and there's tons of resources there. You are going to receive your unofficial transcript soon, and we really would like you to go over it. As it was mentioned before, double check that everything is correct. You're going to have to let us know if there's something wrong ASAP, because the last thing we want to do is send it to a college when there's wrong information. So to correctly complete the packet, you complete the senior packet steps 1 through 5. Complete the survey. There's also a frequently asked questions page on there. I guarantee you some of you are going to have those exact questions. So please read that before emailing us. The letter of rec questionnaire is available if you've not completed it. You do have to complete this if you're requesting a letter from your counselor. This does also include a parent letter of rec. So your parents need to write something and submit it to your counselor. This will make more sense once you look at the questionnaire. The teacher letters of rec process is outlined for you on the Google Classroom as well. And other resources are also provided in Google Classroom to assist with this whole application journey. Something you're gonna have to do when you are filling out your Common App is to complete the FERPA release. So I'm gonna play a video about what this means.
Hi, it's Shauna from Common App. Let's review how to complete the FERPA release authorization and what that means for your application. FERPA stands for the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of student education records. It also gives you the right to review letters of recommendation after you enroll. Check out our info sheet on Common App Ready for more information about FERPA. Completing the FERPA release authorization is the first step in the recommendation process. Once you've completed the authorization, you can begin inviting your counselor and teachers. To access the release authorization, go to any college in the My Colleges tab. Then, go to the Recommenders and FERPA section. At the top of the page, you'll see the FERPA section and a button you can use to access it. It's important to note that the FERPA release is only completed once. Your answer will apply to all the colleges on your list. The first page of the FERPA release gives you some more information about how FERPA works. You'll need to select the affirmation at the bottom before continuing. Next, you'll need to authorize the release of your school records to the colleges you're applying to through Common App. Then, you'll choose whether to waive your right to review any recommendations and documents submitted to a college. Waiving your right states that you do not intend to read your recommendations after enrolling at your future college. This can help reassure colleges that the recommendation letters are candid and truthful. Note that you will never be able to review recommendations from a college you were either not accepted to or a college you chose not to enroll in. Also, some recommenders may refuse to write a letter unless you waive your rights. Check with your counselor or teachers to see if any of them follow such a policy. If you still have questions, it's always a good idea to discuss your decision with your counselor, another school official, or a parent or legal guardian. Finally, you will check the affirmation at the bottom and provide your signature. Once you complete the authorization, you can begin inviting and assigning your recommenders. It's important to understand that your selection cannot be changed once a form has been submitted for you. Forms include applications, letters of recommendation, or other recommender forms. And that's it. Now that you understand how to complete the FERPA release authorization, you're ready to get started.
Okay, so just to review, FERPA is Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. So for us, if you do not waive your rights, your counselor or teacher cannot write an honest and comprehensive letter for you. We're limited in what we can say if you don't do this. So we're basically going to stick to facts and not detail the really amazing accomplishments and successes that you've had. Colleges do prefer to see that you've waived your rights, but either way, you're not going to be able to see your letter of recommendations until you matriculate from college. Again, though, this is super important and we can't send it until you've actually gone into Common App and done that. So that needs to be one of the first steps you do. You can do that and then at a later point, still go back to the rest of your application and finish it. But it just means that we're going to be delayed if you are delayed in doing that. This next video that we're going to show you shows you how to register and connect Common App to your Naviance account. Again, if you don't connect and match appropriately, we cannot send it because they sync up. So it's important that you pay attention to how to do this.
If you are applying to a Common App college and your high school uses Naviance eDocs, you'll need to complete Common App account matching in Naviance Student after you've created your account at Common App. Once you've completed Common App matching, you'll be able to request transcripts and teacher letters of recommendation directly from Naviance Student. This video will walk you through the steps of creating an account in Common App and completing Common App matching in Naviance Student. Step 1. Open a web browser and go to www.commonapp.org. Step 2. Click on Apply Now and then click the First Year Student option. Step 3. Enter the required email and password information and complete the registration information as required. Now follow these steps to complete your registration. Step 1. Go to the Common App tab and complete the required profile, family, education, and other information sections listed on the left-hand side. Be sure to go to the education section and complete the current or most recent secondary high school segment by selecting the school you are currently attending. Just click Find School and search for your school. Step 2. Go to the College Search tab, locate at least one college you are applying to, and click the plus sign to add the college. Step 3. Go to the My Colleges tab. Here, you will see any college that you just added listed on the left. Select the drop-down to the right of the college name and go to the Recommenders and FERPA section. Click Complete Release Authorization. Read and follow the prompts to complete the FERPA form. Great job! You've completed the initial steps for creating a Common App account. Now that you have your Common App account set up, let's match your Common App account to Naviance Student. Matching these accounts allows you to start managing your college application process in Naviance Student. From the Naviance Student homepage, go to the Colleges section and click Colleges I'm Applying to from the drop-down menu. At the top of your application list, you will see a pink banner indicating that you need to match your account if you haven't already completed Common App matching. Click the Match Accounts button. Read through the Common App account matching information. You'll find helpful links here to register for Common App and information about signing the FERPA waiver, just in case you haven't done this already. Remember, these steps should be completed before you attempt to complete Common App matching in Naviance Student. Enter the same email address you used when you registered with Common App, even if you have since changed your email address in your Common App account. Next, verify your date of birth, then click Match Accounts. If the information is correct, your Naviance Student account will be successfully matched with your Common App account. If it is not, you will see a red bar at the top of the page giving more information about the matching error. Double check your information and try again. If you have followed all of the steps outlined in this video, your Common App and Naviance Student accounts should now be matched, and the colleges listed in your Common App account should now be listed in your Naviance Student account.
Okay, so hopefully that video really helped in getting you to see how you set up your Common App account and linking it to Naviance. So that's something that you can refer back to. You can always ask us if you have questions, but we are going to refer you back to that. So it's important to make sure that your college list matches the list of schools you build in Naviance and include in your senior packet survey. There has to be consistency. If you add, remove, change any schools, you need to let us know, because we don't always know what's happening and where you're wanting to send it, and if something has changed or if there's something wrong, and otherwise we're just potentially not going to be sending something to the schools that you want. So it's really important that you verify that with us after you've finished your senior packet and we have that information. You do also really, this is super important, you have to, in Naviance, select the correct application type. So remember before, I went over early and regular and early decision. So you're gonna have to go in once you've added your college and select the appropriate drop down. Then you also have to select how you're gonna submit your application. Are you doing Common App or directly to institution? Directly to institution is also applicable if you're doing Coalition App. So use this to guide you. If you're applying to the college using Common App, select via Common App. If you're applying to the college using Coalition, select directly to institution. Coalition is not synced to Naviance, so electronic documents do need to be sent directly to the college. If you are applying use the college's own application system, which some of them have, select directly to institution. This video at the bottom is going to guide you through these steps. And again, it's super important that you watch this and actually pay attention to how to do this correctly, because we need to make sure that all the supplemental materials that we send as your counselor and as your teacher get sent the appropriate way. Otherwise, they might not receive all the documents and there could be some issues later on in the admissions process. So for us, as your counselor, to send your letter of rec, these are some things to know. In Naviance, when you start adding things, you'll see these little symbols. The CA indicates that the school accepts common application and electronic letters. The open window indicates that they do accept letters electronically, and the red little box, if you can see closely, that's a stamp. This indicates the school does not accept electronic letters, and you're going to need to request that your counselor directly on your school's application so that they can submit it electronically. So for instance, Georgetown University is one of these schools. It has its own application. It's not on Common App. It's not on Coalition. But there is an electronic way to send it. So when you're completing the application, then you have to go into that application, input your counselor and teacher email addresses so that we can send. We will then get an email from Georgetown, and then we send it by the deadline. So if we don't get these emails, we can't send it. So make sure that you're selecting all the right ways that you're sending your applications. So you do have to select how you're doing this. Just so you know, because we get these questions a lot, we are going to submit electronically the following documents via Naviance. If you need a counselor letter, we will send it. Something called a secondary school report. Your official transcript, so you are not sending your transcript. Sometimes you need to input your grades, but that is not a transcript. We are sending that. And then we've referenced the document a few times called a school profile. We will send that for you too, so you don't have to worry about sending those things when you see them as things listed that you need on your college application. So this is kind of a timeline for right now for fall. Complete the senior packet and the questionnaires on your counselor's Google Classroom page. Ask your teachers and counselor for letters of recommendation and complete the appropriate recommendation questionnaires. Inform your counselor of any transcript requests, also any errors to your transcript. Attend the virtual college rep visits that the CCC is putting on. Attend any virtual RAC events, any college fairs that are happening. Continue editing your application essays and personal statements. Organize important dates and deadlines. Have like a binder or something where you, or an Excel spreadsheet where you note this. You can't rely on memory because there's so many different dates to keep track of. Be cognizant of all the updates or changes to specific school admissions requirements. Because of COVID, this could be changing a lot, so you really need to keep up with it. I know that there's a lot of information here. We know that things are changing. We know it's stressful. Please ask questions. We are here to help you. We want to help you. We'd rather have you ask us questions than have something not get submitted or get submitted incorrectly. These are your different counselors' contact information. You should already have this, but if not, here are your counselors' emails. Ms. Evans is the long-term sub for Mrs. Nelson while she's out on maternity leave. So that is her email address. We all have Google Classroom codes that you can see on the right. So make note of that so you can access everything. And hopefully this presentation, as well as what's in the Google Classroom, will assist you in the questions that you have. We're really excited for you in this process. So please just let us know how we can help you throughout.